This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Ebola cases are reportedly surging in rural parts of the West African country of Sierra Leone. A new report by the Africa Governance Initiative says cases continue to rise frighteningly quickly, some 9 times faster than 2 months ago. The report comes as authorities in Sierra Leone have just announced a doctor named Godfrey George had died after contracting Ebola, the 5th doctor to die in Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, in neighboring Liberia, the rate of new Ebola cases appears to have declined. The World Health Organization has said it's cautiously optimistic, but warned the epidemic is far from over. On Friday, the Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, visited a 100-bed Ebola treatment unit in the capital of Monrovia. She said the fight against Ebola is being won thanks to healthcare workers' bravery.
Determination on the part of the many Liberians who suffered from this disease. The courage by the many health workers, the doctors, the nurses, the physician assistants, and all the other support workers of health teams, that despite the fact that they died, that they took sick, they were able to bounce back.
On Friday, the World Health Organization said there had been over 13,500 cases since the outbreak began, with nearly 5,000 confirmed deaths. In other Ebola news, Canada has joined Australia in suspending entry visas for people from Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. For more, we're joined by Angélique Kidjo, the singer and songwriter from the West African nation of Benin. She's a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, the author of Spirit Rising, My Life, My Music. Last week, she wrote a piece for the New York Times, headlined, Don't Let Ebola Dehumanize Africa. Angélique Kidjo, welcome to Democracy Now!
Welcome for having me.
So talk about what's happening in your continent, in Africa, in Western Africa, your region.
Well, Ebola crisis could have been stopped 20 years ago when we seen the first case, but nothing had been done. We are more into emergency and making news about stuff than preventing people's life to be wasted. And it's the same thing with climate change. I mean, if we have taken the action before, we won't be here now spending more money to stop it. Ebola is a disease that is not the face of Africa. But today is becoming the face of Africa, not only West Africa, where I come from, but the face of Africa, where people are so scared about having Ebola, not thinking and not knowing that Africa is not about Ebola.
Why wasn't it stopped before, do you think?
Well, it was not stopped before because, like malaria, is in Africa. If it doesn't touch the citizen of the Western world, nobody cares. I mean, it has been going on forever. I mean, our life means nothing as long as people can make business, make money out of Africa. The life of the citizens and the people of Africa they don't care at all about it.
I want to talk about the media because, of course, that's where so many people learn what's happening. Let's turn to a clip from Fox News, the O'Reilly Factor. Last month, host Bill O'Reilly said President Obama should cancel all flights from West Africa and turn away anyone holding a passport from the region.
Many people frightened and angry that Ebola may spread throughout the USA. So what should the federal government do? Since it is Washington's obligation under the Constitution to provide for the common good. First of all flights from West Africa should immediately be discontinued to the USA. And Europe should do the same thing. Now, I feel sorry for the West African nations, but there's an epidemic of Ebola there, and it will spread because the incubation period lasts for up to 21 days. Also, U.S. immigration should allow no one to enter this country holding a passport from any West African nation.
That's Bill O'Reilly on the O'Reilly Factor from Fox. Your response, Angélique Kidjo?
Well, I'm used to those kind of talk since I've been in America. I mean, I'm an American citizen today, and I don't watch Fox because it's all about fear mongering. And you cannot talk about stopping people from traveling because you're afraid of having Ebola on your continent. You should help the African people, health systems strengthen for them to take care of it and do business as usual. Because America, I mean, the way he's talking, America have business in Africa, so we can do the same. If we overcome Ebola, we can say, okay, every company that comes from America, we will do this and we will do that. And what are they going to do? They're going to force us to do otherwise? I mean, it's always the double standard. Our Western countries say to the African people, don't do what we do and do as we said. Why should we take order today from them? Okay, ban West African country, but don't come back and do business in West Africa. Once we get Ebola out of our homes, don't come back. Do it somewhere else.
I wanted to turn to your piece in the New York Times when you talked about posting on Facebook about your concert Wednesday in Carnegie Hall. What happened?
Well, I opened my Facebook in the morning, as I usually do, to see what is going on. And the first one that arrived is, we wonder if she's bringing Ebola to Carnegie Hall. And the second one, somebody said, her concert shouldn't be called Mama Africa, but should be called Mama Ebola. That is ignorance for me. I mean, I've been living in this country for almost 20 years. I travel around the world. If I'm sick, I'm responsible. I will take care of myself. I don't need somebody to patronize me and tell me what I have to do, and it's not the case. Africa's culture is more beautiful than any other culture in the world. It has fed all the culture, including the American culture. The music the American people love to listen to, all of them come from Africa. And then we have to celebrate that beauty. We have to celebrate that positive Africa that I grew up in. People are resilient in Africa. They don't ask Westerners to come to their rescue. They want Westerners to be partner, helping them dealing with their problem. They don't want pity. They don't want patronizing. And if people can start talking like this, it means that the fear-mongering politics of the Republican are hitting people. You cannot use people's life, people's health, for political gain. It's not good. You cannot tie Ebola to Obama administration. He has nothing to do with it. I mean, then we have to say that then Obama is God, so he has to oversee everybody's life on the planet. Something happened in China, they're going to blame Obama for it. Something happened in Europe, they're going to blame Obama for it. We have to deal with this outbreak that is killing life by strengthening the health system in Africa. That's what the point for me is there.
I just heard about a woman who was fired, a home health care worker, because she was Liberian. And I wanted to turn to, well, the immigrant community of Liberians that live here in New York, mainly in Staten Island. They say they're being stigmatized in the wake of the Ebola crisis. PBS's Hari Srivasan recently spoke to Aretha Bestman-Yates, the president of the Staten Island Liberian Community Association.
So there's stigma here in New York.
In New York.
Because you're Liberian.
Because we are Liberians. You know, when you get on the elevator, people get out of the elevator because they don't want to be on the elevator with you because you're from Africa. Just the accent alone, you know.
Once they figure out you're from Africa, they're scared.
They're scared.
That's Aretha Bestman-Yates, president of Staten Island Liberian Community.
Well, if we are scared because somebody come from somewhere, then nobody move nowhere. For me, it's just so stupid. I don't understand this fear of people. People are not sick, and yet you fire them. I mean, what does it mean? What does it say by America? That when it comes to Africa, everybody's scared, and that we don't use our judgment, our common sense to make decisions. When somebody says something, we all jump in it. I'm not like that. I give people the benefits of the doubt. You cannot do that. I mean, if this crisis, when this crisis comes to an end, we'll have to sit really about how we deal with this kind of problems.
Well, I think the nurse, Casey Hickox, who has been battling to be allowed out into public because she's tested negative for Ebola, is taking on a case more than her own, but how people are treated. I want to turn to comments by Steve Hyman, the attorney for nurse Casey Hickox, at the center of the national debate over quarantining public health officials returning from West Africa. He criticized the response of state officials, comparing it to the way people reacted to the HIV/AIDS virus when it first emerged.
When the AIDS crisis, they were trying to do the same thing. People were supposed to be isolated because of AIDS and the fear that ran through the community. And that proved to be totally wrong. And people were subjected to the same thing that's happening to Casey, by this hysteria that somehow there's contagion because of some myth as to how it's transmitted.
That was Stephen Hyman. And a judge on Friday ruled against the governor, the Tea Party governor of Maine, Governor LePage, and said that she was free, she would be free to travel and to go outside.
Well, I'm glad that somebody is talking sense to this, all this nonsense we're living in. I mean, the question I have is, did America have become a hateful place that you can't live in? We have Ebola. We have Ferguson. What is going on? The world is watching the biggest democracy in the world. And we are not even able to give to the world a message of compassion, of humanity. We are giving the message of, we are hateful here. And if you're black and you have a disease, we don't want you. And if you are immigrant in this country, we don't like you. I mean, it is not what America stands for. When I came to this country, the first thing that struck me is the generosity of the American people, the welcoming capacity of the American people. And yet, now we are, since 2008, we enter an era of hate, period. We hate people that doesn't think the same way we think, that have disease, that come different. It's just like we are coming back to the 16th or 15th century. I mean, we're just going backward. We need to move forward in this.
I want to talk about Miriam Makeba for a few minutes, but
Absolutely.
we have to break first. We're speaking with the Grammy Award-winning musician and UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, Angélique Kidjo. She's performing at Carnegie Hall on Wednesday night, honoring Mama Africa, honoring Miriam Makeba. Stay with us.